I hope you
So
enjoy the weekend. And well, of course, I would like to start and say hello to our chat, to all Walski. Thank you for 10 bucks donations. And Human Love Solidarity and Chander, Dan McCartney. Hello and welcome. Well, how to start now? Well, 2 weeks ago, when Trump got banned from Twitter, uh, I was on one hand, I was very happy about it, um, because one part of me was very, very happy knowing that Trump would be sitting at the White House and fuming and be furious because he cannot put this crap out on Twitter. And yeah, the other feeling I had, oh boy, oh boy, what comes next? What comes next? It's just the beginning. I had the hard feeling, it's not the end. And well, Amos, same question. What did you feel when you heard that Trump was banned from Twitter?
same thing. There's mixed feelings, and the issue is I've been very acutely aware of this issue for a while. And that's also why I am trying to cover that in the other show, in the progressive update, because I think this is going to be our biggest challenge of the 21st century: how to deal with misinformation, disinformation, conspiracy theories, because now, as opposed to the past, they have a magnifier, they have an amplifier. Everybody can say whatever they want, supposedly online. They may be pushed to the corners, pushed underground, but nevertheless they can say pretty much anything, and that causes issues. On the other hand, we have, of course, to deal with our freedom of speech. So yeah, there's conflicting issues here, and that is not an easy problem to solve.
Yeah. And when I did my research on Friday, I was wondering, what kind of card could I use? You got to be very careful. This is the same thing I had in mind. Uh, when I put an aggressive card on it, maybe we would be banned in advance, because YouTube, we know they're already censoring and using their algorithms to hurt certain shows. Well, I found this photo. I guess it's from World War II. If I watch the helmet, and well, watch what you write and say. And well, it was war times, but well, kind of war times is what we experience today also, right? I think at least in the internet. And we see that more and more people are getting into their are dividing from others who are not of their opinion, and everyone is finding themselves in a bubble more and more, and and those bubbles makes it very difficult to get in connection again, because it is, as we know, it is not about facts anymore. It is about feelings, and this makes it very, very difficult to approach this, and yeah, and we're experiencing today, in my opinion, a kind of handicap match. We have the First Amendment, which represents the people, or what the people want to say, and now versus the government, who wants to regulate what the people have to say, and the corporations, of course, who now see they have a big chance, to get certain voices silenced, and yeah, to get maybe their audience back, to their MSM narrative, um, and we know this happened already. I think it was 2 years ago, or already. What happened to Jimmy Dore when he got smeared, and he was put in a line with child molesters, or child rapers, and satanists, and right wingers, and it is very difficult today, to deal with it. And what I can say is that we don't come to a conclusion today in the show, because it has so many levels which we have to cover, and we also it goes back into history, and it's about self-recognition. There are so many things which play into this topic, but at first I would like to show you what the American First Amendment means, or what is excluded by the First Amendment. And you see that the following things are not covered by the First Amendment. It is, for example, it is obscenity, fighting words, defamation, child pornography, perjury, blackmail, incitement to imminent lawless action, the discussion we have now with Trump, true threats. Also, another discussion we have right now. If you see some of the right wingers who were at the Capitol put death threats to members of the House, or solicitations to commit crimes. I think it is quite clear what is not covered by the First Amendment. But what is the reality? What we are experiencing today, Amos? Please tell us. You see it listed there, but in how far do you think is this part of your daily life? In a discussion, what do you observe?
Well, first of all, I don't know if this is an accurate description of the First Amendment. I think the First Amendment is very, very narrow and specific. I think from these that I can detect, there is fighting words is not covered. True threats is not covered. Imminent threat, that is definitely not covered. But the thing is that even if there is something that seems to be seditious, it's still not covered unless it has imminent danger of action. So if you say something like these people should be killed, unless it's something that clearly has an imminent threat, they can't do much against them. So some of these things on the list, you can definitely take them to court for libel, or for in other ways take them to court, but it's not protected under the First Amendment per se.
Oh, okay.
It's to the best of my understanding.
Okay, you see in the first line, in the second line, although different scholar views, it is disputed, if you want. So you got the original text of the First Amendment, but it is a question, how to define it, and this is another problem we have.
That's why we have to go by case law.
Yes, absolutely. And then is the question, yes. What can we do from here? Where are we going? And I would like to show you how the free speech in my home country, in Germany, looks like. And we have not a First Amendment. We have Article 5 of our German Constitution. And we have listed also some things here which are not covered by Article 5. Insults, of course. You cannot go on the streets and think this is a very this is something which we differ from America. If I look some of the videos of activists, First Amendment activists, and they are approaching police, and sometimes the situation gets a little bit rough, in words. They can cover the police with curse words like pigs or asshole or something like this, and this is not possible here in Germany. That you can go to a policeman and call him names. You would get a file immediately, and you will have your day at court, of course, and. The other thing is malicious gossip and defamation, of course. For me as a German, it is absolutely correct. That this is not something which should be tolerated by law. And blasphemy is also a thing which is different to the US. Um, I think it has to do with our European heritage, with the power of the churches, and well, it's not a big deal here in Europe, to be honest, because it is nothing which touches our daily lives, which also difference to maybe big parts of America, And the next thing is, and this is a very important thing. Um, this is hate speech, and for me as a German, it is the denial of the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And yesterday or on Friday, I watched a video which was quite interesting. It was a Jimmy Dore video in which he had Noam Chomsky. And Noam Chomsky, um, he is right in what he says. In general, Noam Chomsky says that he would fight for everyone for his free speech, although he doesn't share the content, but he would stand up, to give everyone the possibility to speech freely, independently from what he's talking about. And Jimmy Dore, I think he was a little bit over the top, when he said that anyone who is against the First Amendment, no matter what, uh, is supporting somehow a fascist narrative. And I think in this case, Holocaust denial, in my opinion, as a German, you cannot have someone walk around the streets and tell the people that the Holocaust is a fake or is not true, and stuff like this. He definitely would have a day at court. And I can remember 2 weeks ago. There was a notorious Holocaust denier. This woman is in the high 90s now, and she has to face a time in prison now, and it's not the first time. She went there several times, but in this case, German laws are absolutely 100% saying that no one is allowed to deny the Holocaust or to put any doubt in it. And I think this is exactly the point, where, in my opinion, freedom of speech is absolutely essential and important, but it has its limits. And there we have another question: where are the limits? Who gives the limits? Who protects the limits? And who watches over the watchers who protect the limits? And there you can see the complexity of this complete topic. Amos,
And
I'm talking too much. Please
no,
go
no,
on.
I also know that in Germany there is a part of the intelligence is also oriented in a way that provides a different set of allowances for investigating people who are defamatory, who are instigating fascism or racism. Right? Is this Verteidigung? I forget the name of it. There's a whole provision for that.
Okay, I don't know what you're referring to right now.
Well, intelligence agencies are able to investigate differently when it comes to people disseminating racial things. So
This
they can
is,
tap their
I think
phones.
this is our German Verfassungsschutz,
Exactly.
who's in charge of this.
Verfassungsschutz.
He's the German Verfassungsschutz is the institution
Yeah.
who shelters our constitution.
Right.
And this and as it is a basic thing in our constitution, that we have to stand for our history, what happened here. It is important, for us, as Germans, to not allow anyone to put any doubt in it, what happened in history. Even more in those times of conspiracy theories.
And here comes the thing that's part of the difference between the U.S. and Germany. The U.S. never had to experience fascism firsthand the way people have in Germany, and that urgency as to the dangers of misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech is not as is not as crystallized in American eyes, and so it provides it provides a justification for a much purer conceptual kind of approach to free speech than in Germany, that is perhaps more pragmatic in that particular sense. So I don't know which is more correct. You could definitely defend the U.S. approach like Noam Chomsky has, but something is amiss if you can't rein in disinformation.
And there's one thing I want to put in favor of Noam Chomsky. He was saying this. You can see this in his video. He was very much younger than today. At this time, it was not like today, where facts and science are disputed. So I think when he said this, he was in the meaning, that there is still common sense, which would lead to the truth, if you want, so to the truth in the core, right? What a topic is about in a speech. And as this is not as this is not longer given, um, well, I would like to refer quickly to Billy Joasmo. I hope I pronounce it correctly. He says in chat, there are people that are called auditors that go out and test the First Amendment against police and others. And this is exactly what I was referring to. And I think it is absolutely great. And there's one guy who gets a donation from me from time to time, because I think he's so brave. He's a black guy also, and that is very difficult for black people, to approach police in general. But he knows his rights, and I think it's bravious, that he puts police in place, and say and tells them or proves them what their role is. Their role is not to be the bully in court, in the schoolyard, but to protect and serve exactly the shit what is written on the police cars mostly, and absolutely fantastic, but the thing is, I was wondering, if they can get away, putting cuss words on policemen, because I'm not absolutely not familiar with that in Germany. Here you directly get the aid, and then you get you get your fire, and you know anyway, well, let's go on. And oh, right, by the way, before I forget it, there is also, which is not covered by our Article 5, is anti-constitutional activity. And this is very interesting. This also concerns Scientology, which we here in Germany consider to be not a religious unit, but more an economic enterprise, if you want, so so this is why we do not accept Scientology as a religion here, and well, you can think about it whatever you want. I'm not a fan of them. If you read a little bit about the backgrounds of Scientology and where all this came from, you will land directly in the Hermetic orders, of the 19th century, and it's crazy stories. Anyway, I'm not a fan of Scientology, and they are mostly restricted here in Germany by law. I found an interesting article in the Guardian, and they asked several journalists, should we celebrate Trump's Twitter ban? And there was, among others, Branko Marketic, writer and author for the Jacobin magazine, and he was asked, what's the left-wing case for free speech? And he says, and I read it out, censorship and any type of oppression really always begins by targeting particularly unsympathetic people. Those who it is uncontroversial to censor. But once you set the precedent, inevitably the bounds of what is considered acceptable or wrong always end up expanding. So censoring are liable to political pressure. They may want us to temper criticism or ingratiate themselves with a new regime. When Facebook started fact checking due to concerns about fake news, some of the fact checkers that got on board were from right wing news outlets like the Weekly Standard, a long standing neoconservative magazine, and the Daily Caller, Tucker Carlson's old media entity. And yeah, and this is exactly one of the question we have to raise. If it comes to fact checking, the question is who is checking the facts, right? And this is the first hurdle. So to to find someone who can fact check and has the trust of all sides, or of the most sides. In those days it's very hard to find, right? And he goes on, there were several instances where fact checkers from those outlets fact check stories where there was strong disagreement about their conclusions. And in 2017, when Germany purged some violent far-right websites, it also took off a left-wing website because it was an anti-capitalist website. That's an attempt to look even-handed, so it does not look like that you are merely prosecuting the right. This is exactly what I said earlier. That they will ban right-wing media if it gets too extreme, in their opinion, but they will also address the left-wingers, not to be accused to be one-sided. And this is the perfect chance, to get rid of all those, who don't fit into the narrative, the mainstream ones. And he goes on. He was asked, so how should we feel about the Trump Twitter ban? And he says, Trump didn't really incite the violence via Twitter. He tweeted, but the people saw the speech on TV. Most important for Trump's rise was television and the massive amount of earned media and free media he got in 2015 and 2016. And this is exactly the point. And you don't hear any self-criticism of the mainstream media, especially the mainstream media. Look at, for example, MSNBC, who who had live footage of the Trump podium for an hour, until His Majesty finally arrived. He got all the time. He wanted. It was cash for him. And there is no one from the mainstream media, from CNN, MSNBC, no one of them says, hold on. What is our part in all this? No, no, no. They are looking forward and they see the chance. Now is the chance. We are putting the politics under pressure. To put out laws. Yeah, the perfect situation. To get rid of unpleasant commentators, shows. Or views in general. Yeah, to get their own narrative brought through. Amos, what do you think?
Yeah, that's true. But there's when we discuss these things, and that's something that I actually criticize Dore with, because he does not, when he discusses freedom of expression, he doesn't make the distinction between news and reporting, and news and journalism, and opinions. And opinions, we can sit here and spin anything we like, any way we like, and we can have whatever extreme opinions. But when it comes to facts, there's a verifiable, usually verifiable set of facts that is either true or is not true. And if you took somebody into court for libel, that would be the basis of the lawsuit. So I don't think that it's illegitimate to ask for fact-based things that are not fact-based to experience some sort of a criticism. I don't know if censorship. They try to do criticism alongside with comments that I'm not sure that has moved the needle on anything. But I've been looking at all these recently, the QAnon threads and X22 and all these things, and the amount of insanity based facts as opposed to uh, reality based facts is just astounding. And if you cannot agree on the basis of what reality is, then you can't agree on anything. And of course, if I was in the belief that this country was being taken over and turned into a socialist a dictatorship by Biden, um, due to massive election fraud, I probably would be in a different mood than I am this way.
Yeah, and I do this from time to time. I try to imagine what would be my reaction if I were one of them. In quotation marks. Um, for example, if I ask myself what would my role be if I was born beginning of the 19th century, what would have been, my life in the Nazi regime in Germany. Would I have been someone who was also a Nazi? It always depends, where you grow up, on your parents, your peer groups, your teachers, etc., the place where you're living, and if you get influenced by all those parts, it is easy today to say, I won't be a Nazi because it is not acceptable, but you got to also be in this time. You got to try to um to get connected to the feelings, to the economic situation, and all the other factors which were important to come to such a terrible thing. And I'm also asking this when I was growing up, maybe somewhere in Mississippi or Tennessee or Kentucky, the home of Mitch. Um, well, being born in a family, of normal workers who are seeing nobody takes them serious, neither on the west or on the east coast, and experiencing it is getting more and more down, with my place, with my city or so, and then you suddenly you get more and more. I think it is not only Trump, the feeling grew. I think it grew over the decades, the feeling of being suppressed, not taking serious, uh, and all this. And then um Trump shows up, and he channels all the feelings, uh, of being not a real part of America, if you're not on the west or east coast. And well, I don't know if I would also have become a Trumper. We don't know this, and this is why I think, and this is already a kind of conclusion I wanted to put on later. But I think it's we cannot mention it often enough. There is something which is very important in my opinion, and it was Ronald Reagan in 1987 who closed this rule for the media, and it's the fairness doctrine. In the fairness doctrine, every media was obliged to cover both sides or all sides, when they are reporting about it. And I think this is exactly the thing America has to come back to, you know that you have a discussion, not in bubbles, but trying to connect in a media. I don't know what it would be. It is definitely not the mainstream media. I don't know what it would be, but to get connected again, and get in talks again. We have the right bubble, and what I'm reading there is absolutely fantastic. They are still running the pizza connection, with the children, etc., and all this stuff, and I'm pretty sure there's still some Trumpers which believe, it's not over yet. That suddenly, I don't know, the hordes of God will come from heaven, and put Trump in government again. And I think this is exactly, we got to get the bubbles to burst, to get connected again together. And one thing, and this is only one thing, that the fairness doctrine, that the media are obliged, to report not only for their bubbles, but try to be objective on topics, and also present other opinions in a discussion. And as I said, this is only one step. The other step is, from which I know, is that many public schools don't offer any more civics. And this is also an important part, that you know what your rights are, but what your duties are, and what you can do politically, etc. All this stuff, which would lead to get connected, which is missing today. I think there are only two minor steps, and yeah,
Let me
two
address
minor.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd like to say something about that because I think it's not just civics education. I think a great part of it is media literacy. And our
yeah,
generation has learned how to uh, do media literacy for more traditional forms of media. We are not as good with social media and other forms, and it is every generation has new forms of media. I think this is an extremely important thing to educate people how to read, fact check for themselves, and so forth. But another thing you said regarding the fairness doctrine, and that is, I'm convinced that that is one of the tools that we would have to use in order to get back to sanity. But let me be the devil's advocate on that one. There's two things. First of all, it's not always between two sides. So when you're presenting one argument, there's not necessarily one opposite side to it. There may be two, there may be three, there may be four, and you can't use that fairness doctrine in this manner, in that perspective. And the second thing is, this would be good for major mainstream media outlets. It would not be good for places like small media outlets like us or Jimmy Dore or whoever that may get a guest, but they're probably not going to get somebody from the Republican side or the opposite side of the argument as well. And so it has a limited validity, in my opinion. There's got to be other things that we implement.
yeah. I'm just reading in a comment here in chat from Ro. Obviously, the assumption the corporation media is always true and factual, in quotation marks, is wrong-headed view. At Apple Media, corporate media spins facts. Please tell us. Well, I don't get what you want to tell us,
No,
but
I think I understand.
the fact spinning you can see is this maybe daily,
Yeah,
not only
but
if
facts,
you
but
watch
facts
Rachel
being,
Maddows.
yeah, facts spinning. Well, there's a difference. Okay, so spinning is like you take a fact and you put it and you frame it in a certain way that works for your agenda, for your perspective. But
This is Rachel
nevertheless,
Maddows. This is why I mentioned
possibly,
her.
yeah. But the facts underneath it have to be provable. And for example, there was a whole thread that the right wing media was promoting regarding Smartmatics. They said that Smartmatics was being used on what's the name of that company's machines? The
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
well
Domi-
they
Dominion.
Dominion machines. The fact of the matter was that they were competitors and they were not using this Smartmatic on Dominion machines. And the only place they used Smartmatic was in one county in the United States. And now they're being taken to court on basis of that because that's a clear fact. They could have checked it. They did not. They chose to misrepresent the fact, and that is the issue. If you start doing that, then you get to very strange and odd places, such as QAnon's theories.
Yeah. And yeah. Uh, well, let me see if we got another comment here. I found another one, but I lost it. Anyway. Oh, yeah, here it is. Al Walsky, media moguls should not be permitted to censor free speech. There should be a neutral, objective arbiter. And this is, I agree, but who installs this neutral arbiter? Normally, politics does it, right? there is again, there's also a danger that you would have a kind of Supreme Court for social media, for media in general, that it would be misused by politics again, and it's difficult. Amos, what do you say? Do you see an option, for a neutral arbiter, to get in place?
Yes, and that goes back to something that I've proposed to Branko Marcetic, the guy who wrote those things earlier. We quoted, and maybe I'll run this little clip now. That was an idea I floated, and they responded to it. So let's see. And just to remind everybody, it's not a position that necessarily these media companies wanted to be in. I remember, like in 2018 or 19, Zuckerberg was being questioned about it. He was reluctant to introduce any censorship, and he was attacked because he was reluctant. Here's what he said back then.
Mark Zuckerberg doubling down on Facebook's controversial decision not to fact-check Facebook ads from political candidates.
We think people should be able to see for themselves what politicians are saying.
At a carefully orchestrated event at Georgetown University, Zuckerberg used teleprompters to give a 35-minute speech on freedom of expression, revealing for the first time how close he came to banning political ads entirely.
I've considered whether we should stop allowing them altogether. From a business perspective, the controversy certainly is not worth the very small part of our business that they make up.
Last month, President Trump's campaign stirring up controversy for using the platform to share misinformation on Hunter Biden in Ukraine through a campaign ad. Now, the Biden campaign striking back on Zuckerberg's speech, saying his choice to cloak Facebook's policy in a feigned concern for free expression demonstrates how unprepared his company is for this unique moment in our history. After Zuckerberg invoked Martin Luther King Jr. for freedom of expression, Twitter lit up with this critique from the civil rights leader's daughter, Bernice King. I'd like to help Facebook better understand the challenges MLK faced from disinformation campaigns launched by politicians. These campaigns created an atmosphere for his assassination. The war of words comes as Republicans rail against Facebook for allegedly censoring conservative views.
Tech censorship.
Zuckerberg saying this to Dana Perino on Fox News.
Kamala Harris has said that she thinks that Twitter should shut down President Trump's account. Do you think that's a ridiculous idea?
In a democracy, I don't think that we want private companies censoring politicians in the news.
And we all know this is where it went. So, yeah, it's a very tricky thing. But if not the social media companies, then who should be in charge of that? Do you think that perhaps there should be another branch of government that is journalistic, or informationalist, or whatever you would call it? So you would have executive, legislative, judiciary, and informationary, and you would have people who could be elected based on their ability for objectivism and professionalism, and we would have to trust them. Or is that also too close to government? Or should there be like a third-party crowdsourcing system where people would just the public would decide what's correct and what's not?
I think if you're going to reorganize the entire government and add a fourth branch, I think a much better effort in that case would just be to completely overhaul the U.S. electoral system. I mean, we have to remember this is a relative minority of the country that believes in this stuff and supports it. And the only reason that it has gained any traction is because the right-wing or the conservative parts of the country have disproportionate power in the U.S. Political system. Not to even get started on the election system, which is completely archaic and has all these hinge points that Republicans have tried to use this year and last year to overturn the election. So I think if we were talking about actually overhauling the entire government, that is a much better thing to focus on. But in some of what you were saying in terms of having a more public oversight board, I think that isn't the worst thing. I think, again, looking at things like reinstating the fairness doctrine, which existed in the United States for years, would be another thing to look at, and other kind of affirmative regulations that would ensure balance and fairness in the media. And again, using anti-monopoly power to break up some of these massive media conglomerates in television and print, and to make them smaller to reduce the power and influence they have. I think those are all things that are worth looking at.
And what we're so yeah, and again, this is not we're not talking about censorship. We're talking about fact checking here.
Yes, it's
just to be clear,
it's different. And well, I'm absolutely against censorship, but as I said before, there are things, there's a limit, and I talked about it, but it's as I said, we are having a discussion here. It's a very difficult topic because it covers so many things, and I think one of the most striking parts, it is education, that and here we are back, at what I think all of us want, is that the people get better education, free education, and if we are looking at what happened over the years, the teacher strike, etc., and we saw the pictures, the photos of what the students and the teachers have to deal with, books which were not readable anymore. The teachers had to buy a pen and paper for their students, etc. This is absolutely the thing, if you cannot if you cannot provide the education, an unbiased education, well, then it's very difficult, to distinguish facts from fakes, etc. And it is all, everything is connected with everything in this discussion. And as I said, it is nothing which came up with Trump in 2016. It was cooking for a very long time before, and that we are now talking about the in how far free speech is touched, shows that it was a long process, to come to this point, that we are having this discussion right now. And another thing is, and I think it might be an American thing, to look forward. This is one thing which also got you in progress in many parts, but on the other hand, if you don't deal, if you don't examine a history, then you cannot take much from it to learn from it. And this is I'm addressing to the Republicans who are coming since Trump is out now on stage and proclaiming that we should all sing Kumbaya right now and look forward, and everything is forgotten what happened in the past. This won't work. You got to confront with what happened and take out of it what it taught you, right? Amos, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree, and I wanted also to respond to Rose's assertion. He says you want a government agency to be the arbiter of facts, not a smart plan. It's straight out putting the fact police in charge. Well, yes
Right.
and no. I don't know what the answer is, but here the argument would be we have like a judicial system. If it wasn't politicized in this country, it would work pretty well if it was purely a professional institution where people get educated in how to fact check, and then they would provide it as a service to the public and indicate in each case what the level of truth of each piece of news is. It would be part of the stream. I don't know.
Yes.
That might be something that would, it wouldn't stop misinformation from going out. It would attenuate it to some level and put it in a more realistic perspective, perhaps.
But the question is still, and I can also understand the criticism, if independently, what kind of agency institution you would put onto to check what's going on social media or independent media. Let's refer to social media. The question is still, who watches the watcher, and we know that everything, gets politicized in some way. And this is the danger, and this is exactly the question. This is the discussion we are having here. How can we move forward? Without losing anything, but to make sure that we are moving forward on facts. By reviewing what happened in the past. Because this is the only thing to learn from things. If you only look forward and think, let's all forget what's in the past, you don't take anything valuable out of it, and it's only, yeah. And
And we agree that
it's a very complicated topic, and it's definitely not the last time that we would that we will talk about this, But at this time, and I thought a long time about it. There's also the difference between Germany and America, but I see it also develops in a wrong direction here in Germany, and I think it might be even worse here in Germany if we wouldn't have those restrictions in our German laws. That not everyone can go on the street and, for example, deny the Holocaust or stuff, or call people, to assassinate other people and all this stuff, Well, it is a very, very hard discussion. Lots of things are touched by this, as we found out, and well, Amos, it is not the
and
last time we
rightfully
will
so.
talk
This is rightfully so. It's such a essential thing. If we have to get it right, because if we get it wrong, it has tremendous implications. And we do agree that the social media companies should not have neither media company should have take charge of it, or being in charge of content in that way. And I don't think that they want it either, as you saw in the clip that I showed. That wasn't something that the media companies necessarily wanted to have on their hands. They'd rather just make money. It's just a
of
pure
course,
headache on their.
And the Zuckerberg clip, come on, you cannot take Zuckerberg for serious. That he doesn't want to influence Facebook and freedom of speech. This guy is only about money.
It is money. It is money, and that's why it's such a headache for him. He'd rather not deal with it.
Yeah.
But no matter what they do, we'll be on their case. Now that they're taking actions and blocking, we're attacking them for blocking. If they didn't block, we would attack them for not doing anything. The fact is, we don't have yet the system in place to properly address misinformation, conspiracy theories, and so forth. So this is something to keep an eye looking forward.
Yeah, and here's another comment from Al Walski. Public education should include civics and POD, problems of democracy, to make students aware of the rights, responsibilities of good citizenship. Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely. It starts with education, if people know, you cannot bullshit them with fakes, right? And and even if you don't know, if people get the tools in the hand, by checking, rechecking, what's going on here, what is this source saying, what does the other source say, and then making up their own mind. I think this is, and I see this is also in Germany. This is also lost here in Germany, which I grew up, in school. Every teacher I had, he said, okay, before you get into a problem, try it at least, to stay objective on a topic. Read what the left media says, the right media, read what the center says, and then make up your own mind. This is how I grew up, but I don't think that it's yeah, this approach is not so common anymore, for younger generation. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I have prejudices in this. I don't know.
And Marcus, before we leave the subject for today, Julie Love said,
I see this
"I've
here.
seen
Yeah.
groups of neo Nazis marching in Germany."
Yeah.
Where
Okay.
is
Yeah.
the
Okay.
line
But
drawn?
we have the neo Nazis here in Germany. Yes, of course. They luckily they are still a small number, and they may march. But if they are showing any symbols or chanting any Nazi paroles, etc., this is at the same moment this demonstration is stopped. And there are also very creative ways, to fool the neo Nazis. And there was one funny story. Which happened in 2018 in summer. There was a gathering of neo Nazis, and they wanted to have a march through a little city, and the mayor of the city, they said we don't want them, but he could not. He could the law allowed them to march, so he said, "Okay, we were making it for them as hard as possible." So we do not tolerate any army boots, any heavy boots, for this march. So the people are allowed to march, but with bare feet, right? So they had to go bare feet, and this was one thing which was completely ridiculous for them. Everyone was laughing about them. Another funny story was they in another city they had a march, and there were a crowd fund, that for every meter or 100 meters, people would give money, to put it into anti-fascist projects, and you can be creative, to fight the neo Nazis, but our constitution allows them to march as long as they do not put out, as I said, any fascist symbols or paroles, etc. As long as they're not doing this, they are tolerated, because our law says, our basic law says that we are trusting in the common sense of the people, so that we would not restrict those groups per se, but to give them also the chance to show up publicly, but under restrictions. I hope it explains a little bit. All right, I think it's time. As I said, we will have this topic. It's not the last time we will be talking about this, but let's look at, for the last fucking time. Finally, let's look at the Trump heritage.
All right, so just coming up before Bernie and his mittens is Trump's legacy. So I wanted to go through this, and it's interesting to see that in terms of the question of will he be remembered positively or negatively, overall the majority, but not a huge majority, thinks that it's going to be negative. And when you're looking at Democrats, is of course just a sliver that thinks that he's going to be remembered positive, mostly negative or very negative. And with Republicans, it's astounding that about a third of Republicans think he was the best president after all of this. So something to keep in mind. And here you can see how the graph delineates in terms of thinking about about the way things are going in the country, and you can see that we're plummeting. So that's not good news. And finally, think about the coronavirus. Which one should be Joe Biden's top priority? And people think that vaccine distribution should be the biggest issue. Financial relief is the next one for small businesses, and then direct payment 13%. When you look at the Democrat and Republican responses, the second and the third flip. They actually believe on the Republican side more in helping businesses, and in the Democratic side they they put more weight on helping individuals directly. Um, and so this is from Opinion Today. This was written by Ezra Klein, and he says, "Today the best hope Biden has of bringing the country together lies in policy, not rhetoric. As I write in my column this morning, he needs to make people's lives better and fast." And this is something that a lot of us have been saying. It's not about talking about unity. It's not about repealing Trump's executive orders. It's about really making a change to the middle class and lower middle class. And then he goes on and he says the central tax cut in the 2009 stimulus was designed to be invisible. The Affordable Care Act didn't begin delivering health insurance on a mass scale until 4 years after its passage. And what he means by that is that the when the Democrats were designing the tax cuts, their idea was not to have tax cuts that you would feel, and if you didn't feel that they were coming, you would just simply see that your bank account was had a little bigger, and you would go out and spend that money. And that's what they wanted. They wanted to increase the circulation in the market. But that backfired because nobody noticed that they actually did tax cuts. And same thing with the health care that didn't kick in until later, so people did not see how it was affecting them directly. And that's a lesson that we would have to take going forwards. And then he also said both policies were too small to solve the problems they confronted, in part because the congressional Democrats thought voters cared more about legislative price tags than actual outcomes. The Democrats' disastrous 2010 wipeout was in part the result. And I think I agree with him in terms of that. I think that was a big part of it, that the Democrats were not going far enough, not too far. And that's another lesson we have to learn. I think we, and Bernie and others, understand that we have to do very big changes in order to have impact, so that they're able to retain the Congress in 2022. What are your thoughts, Marcus?
About Trump, I have absolutely no thoughts anymore. I'm just happy that he left. At least about that he had the nuclear codes. We don't know what in his crazy mind was going on, but my expectations about Biden, as you know, are pretty limited. Well, I was looking meanwhile at the next slide, and I think it was very interesting. Continue with the next slide, and I will tell you my thoughts about this.
Which next slide? Are you talking about?
I'm sorry. So you were already. Slide 28. 28. If you can put it on again.
Yes.
Because I think this is very interesting. 48%. Think it's important to have the vaccine distribution.
Yes.
I think it's not only the vaccine distribution. I think it is connected with healthcare. Because this is the exact same topic. It's about health, and it would have been such an easy win. It would be such an easy win for the Democrats if they would have the balls to install a single payer payment, including with a speedy vaccine distribution. It would, the Republicans could go home to Florida and do nothing the next 4-8 years, because the Americans would be so grateful to the Democratic Party forever to have done this, uh, no one would waste a thought on the Republicans anymore. But the reality shows it's different.
I think
There's
it's a
still
battle that's coming up, but it's not encouraging to see Biden's move at this point, because they've pushed the $2,000 check or whatever, like the remaining 1,400 check. They pushed it to March, where everybody needs it now. And second of all, he now, as part of the COVID treatment, he approved giving out, subsidizing private insurance companies for health care, which is further cementing the Obamacare approach.
yes,
And that would have been a perfect opportunity to move to an open, if not a
absolutely.
Medicare for all, to an open option, to a single payer option. And they have not done so. So it's so far not been very encouraging in that regard.
No, absolutely not. And yeah, and we are looking back even more disappointing, the vote on Nancy Pelosi in this connection again. If you
I,
see those numbers,
I think
I
there's
think
going to be other opportunities as long as they're willing to put
yeah,
their
when,
life.
yeah,
Well,
exactly. Yeah, we hear this. It is not now the time, but when is the time? Nobody knows. Yeah, it was a mischance, a big mischance, and we talked about this a
yeah,
lot. But I think 48% speak volumes if you compare it with the other with the other figures here. Financial relief to small business has I think is still a lot, but only 24% in comparison to the 48. Uh, double want the vaccine distribution, and I guess in connection with a decent healthcare system.
yeah. And
Yeah.
as far as the as far as Trump's own personal legacy is concerned, I think he's left behind an image of the Capitol and in smoke, and a complete disastrous disastrous media landscape, or ecosystem, where things are just completely out of disarray. Nobody knows what is true, what is not. There's a lot of this disarray in Congress, people wearing guns into the chamber, a disastrous amount of chaos as far as his legacy. He himself is probably, I don't even know where he's going to live, because he has 67 court cases or something like that pending in New York State. If he
If he
goes
was
to
clever, he would
Florida,
go back to New York.
if he goes to Florida, there's his neighbors don't want him there. There's a part in the contract for his purchase of Mar-a-Lago that disallows people from living 21 days on the premises, more than 21 days a year. He can't even go to his golf course in Scotland because they've
Nope.
they
Nope.
have
Nicola Sturgeon, the minister president, already said, we don't want this motherfucker here.
and they're having a lawsuit against him where they may confiscate the golf course, because if he can't prove that the money was not money laundered to purchase it, they're just going to impound it. So he's
Yeah.
not doing. He's due hundreds of millions of dollars in debt next year. I don't know.
Yeah,
In
and
front of his personal life.
there's so much coming. There's Deutsche Bank with 300,000 with 300 millions, so much. And I heard, there was only one resort he got a little bit gain from in the last year. It was Mar-a-Lago with 24 million, I think.
For one
All,
reason.
all other controlled branches from him were deficitary.
And for one reason he was able to flip it in the other, because
Yeah,
he was using it with leverage in terms of access, pay to
yeah,
play,
yeah.
and that's he's not going to have that anymore. So
And Trump is not a brand anymore which sells. In contrary,
right.
you know, this brand is burned. And there
Yeah.
was another comment here. I read that Trump is building up a third party. I doubt this. I doubt this for three reasons. He has too much to do at court. he has no Twitter account anymore. And what was the third one? To old Twitter account and
Well, I hope
I
he's gonna. I hope he's gonna build another party because it's gonna destroy the Republican Party.
yes,
But
I'm pretty sure that there will be another Republican Party or a radical Republican Party. I think there's talks about a Patriots Party, right?
yes,
And
Patriot Party.
and I think if you look at how heavily the Tea Party once came over the Republican Party, I think it's more likely to see a Patriot Party than a People's Party.
Yeah,
You know, and,
possibly. Yeah.
yeah, because they they are driven by hate, you know, and hate can get people activated, right?
Sadly
More
so.
than
Yeah.
common sense and facts and etc. On the other side, you know.
Yep.
All right.
So we have a bunch of things about Bernie's spectacular media blitz, his explosion on the social media scene, and it's very interesting that happened. If you guys didn't pay attention, which I find it hard to believe, I think everybody by now has seen those images of Bernie sitting at the inauguration in his Parker coat with knit mittens, and it just exploded. Everybody who does Photoshop put their own memes, and we'll show some of them. But I'm sure I can't imagine that would not cause Biden to be a little bit left behind. And after all the inauguration and all the executive orders that he's done, who is in the most in the media is Bernie. So all heroes wear capes. Mine wears mittens. And then we have Medicare for All. Change my mind.
Mm. I was only missing if you can show the other one. And when I saw Bernie there sitting in, I was thinking of Walter Matthau, to be honest.
Uh-huh.
Walter Matthau would be perfectly placed next to him, you know, as a new odd couple.
Yeah, yeah. And somebody even doctored the workers' photo, the builder's photo. You can barely see it, but if you look closely, he's the fourth from the right. And somebody doctored the Last Supper. He fits perfectly there.
Okay. Between Jesus and Maria Magdalena, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And
no, it was not Maria Magdalena. I know, bullshit.
this
Okay.
is where
Let me see. Oh, let me see. Where is he? Did you find him already?
No, I didn't, but some people said they found him. I think he might be the person with the gloves on the very, very right third.
Yeah, the black spot there in the corner, right?
No, it's a little bit above a red-coated person, but I might be wrong.
I don't know.
Those things are fun though. And you have popular media.
Burns World, party time, excellent. Yeah, OJ.
The Muse.
Uh-huh.
Black Holes and Revelations. Dr. Pepper.
Yep.
And the iconic cover. Iron Mittens.
I love this one, Iron Mittens.
And here comes one that I made.
No, it's common sense. Yeah. Good one.
And people have started using it for promotion, especially in New York, in outdoor dining. A bunch of places.
That's clever.
A bunch of places have.
I guess in Brooklyn somewhere, right?
Yeah, in Brooklyn, and we have a candle which is the burn time of 50 hours. And a Bernie cookie, somebody figured how to make a Bernie cookie. And so they put it on. Bernie himself, after this came out and became a sensation, his team created a sweatshirt. They put it on online for sale. They sold 100%. This was sold out, and 100% of the proceeds went to Meals on Wheels in Vermont.
Oh, cool.
So he shows the kind of person he is, even where it comes to self-promotion. And in the end, Bernie managed to unite us during our most divided time, primarily by being himself. I think that's and it's interesting. It's interesting to note that it was. Not the phenomena is explicable because it is after 4 years of Trump, where you had to worry every day about the crazy shit that was going on and what was happening. There's a sense of relief where now normal things can come onto the surface and into light, and I think what's interesting about this particular meme blitz is that people like Bernie. There's something adorable about it. Something people like about him: his authenticity, his lack of pretense. Very straightforward. He also carried an envelope to the inauguration, and people remarked about the fact that it was just one among other stops on his morning routine. He had the mail to send after.
He stole the notes from the pillow guy, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's basically and another aspect of it is perhaps people feel like in the media and mainstream media feel less threatened by him, so they're not as they don't bury things as much as they did before.
Of course they do now. Of course they do it now, because I think you're absolutely right in your description of Bernie. Bernie is a lovable person, and he's authentic, and but he has no punch. He's shying away from punching hard, and this
I disagree, and we'll get into that in a moment.
This is exactly why they love him now.
I don't think I don't think you're right. I think he is currently in a position that the Republicans have warned about for months and years, that he would end up in the budget committee. It is not where he perhaps wanted to be, and it's certainly not by design. Biden didn't want him in his cabinet, so they made place for him as a budget committee chair, and he has to work with Nora Fornoy, which hates him. Nevertheless, his position is tremendous power at the moment. And
okay, we will see how he punches then. Then he can prove
started
it now.
punching. He's not wasting any time. He went out and he said that he's going to take these actions to the floor through budget reconciliation, which he can do from the budget committee. And nobody really can stop him if they can get a simple majority of 50+1. And so here's what he said. What we have got to do is recognize right now we are living in an unprecedented moment in American history, with a pandemic, economic collapse, climate change, crumbling infrastructure. We have millions of people working for starvation wages. What we have to do is roll up our sleeves and fight for the agenda that working people throughout this country want. They want to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. They want the direct payment of $1,400 on top of the $600. We've got to do that. They understand that during the midst of the healthcare crisis, we cannot have millions of people being thrown out of their houses or lack health care. We have an enormous amount of work. You throw in impeachment and the need to get Biden's nominees confirmed. It's a lot of work that has to be done. And we have to roll up our sleeves and do it. And what's interesting is that he was already discussing how he's going to incorporate the things like not just the $15 pay, but far greater. I forget all the issues that are on his table, but pretty progressive agenda. And the only thing that can stop him if he does that is congressman, senator, or blue dog Democrats such as Manchin. And we'll see where that goes. I think that the Congress can, even though they're not part of the Senate, they can sweeten the deal for Manchin in other terms in order to get him on board. They'll have to be very smart and calculated and strategic, and we'll see where it goes. But I am certainly on board with Bernie's approach, as opposed to waiting for Republicans to join in unity and collaborate. I think his approach of giving them a time window to do so is good. And I think that ultimately they should have the opportunity to pick whichever portions of it they can get behind, so they don't completely lose faith, because if they are not part of that, they will be seen as obstructionist in their own constituencies, and that's not somewhere that they want to be in. So they may oppose the overall push, but they may want to join in on sections of it, such as the check. I don't know exactly which parts they may see themselves on collaborating, but I think that we'll see what happens. It's an exciting period of time. I'm more optimistic than pessimistic.
We'll see. We'll see. And there was a comment by Al. Al Walski, Bernie is best at taking rather than giving punches. He plays by the rules. And this is exactly the only thing bad in quotation marks I can say about him, And that he has no punch. But he can prove it now. We will see how he does in his new office with all the power he has now, and we will see where it leads.
And remember, he was never in a position of power because the party was not in a position where they could do anything. So neither was he, and this is a very different scenario. So yeah, we'll see.
Nina.
And Nina, I have a little clip from Status Quo, Jordan Sheraton interview.
The interview, yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
And I found one particular excerpt interesting. I wanted to share it with you guys. So here goes.
There's been a big battle royale in the progressive sandbox over the last few weeks over forced to vote. A lot of names being called on all sides, sellout, frauds. I don't really participate in that. But I want to ask you, if elected, by my math right now, Nancy Pelosi as House Speaker has a narrow, I think it's 4 or 5 seat majority. Progressives in the House, obviously that Progressive House Caucus is about 100, but let's just say capital P progressives have about 9 or 10 right now. I think 9 or 10 in a unified bloc, whether it's Medicare for all or other priorities, can, frankly, make demands of House Speaker Pelosi, which, frankly, you look at the UK Parliament, you look at other governments, that's just common practice, if you, based on the numbers, you negotiate or make demands based on your leverage, your power. But it seems like that has not happened yet among the progressives in the House. If you come in, do you think it's a radical concept that they say, no, we're not giving you votes for X, Y, and Z unless you give us, A, B, and C?
I mean, that's how the political business is done. No, it's not radical. It's right on time. People are dying and losing their livelihoods. And I'm not the best at using analogies, but let me just say that I want your viewers to think about if they were drowning. Do you want somebody to say, I'll get to you in March or I'll get to you in April? If you are drowning, you need somebody to jump in there right now, radically jump in there and save your life. That is the moment that we are in with the ravages of this global pandemic that has not been tamed yet. It has not been tamed yet. So imagine that you were drowning even before the pandemic. And I mean, man, you going over and over again, and you need somebody to jump the hell into the water and save you. That's the moment that we're in right now. And yes, the progressives should leverage. Absolutely, they should. And the Congressional Black Caucus and the Progressive Caucus all together. I mean, can you imagine? I can imagine this. Like, I've been playing this over in my head that I would love to see all of those caucuses come together to say we are going to do what is right, not what is. But this should be easy too. But I'll just say let's do what's right and not necessarily politically convenient. But it should. In this case, though, Jordan, I can't even. This is right, and it is politically correct to say that you're gonna save the American people. I don't understand what the what is the problem. I don't understand. This just does not compute for me. So I just have this wild vision in my head that the progressive and the Congressional Black Caucus will come together and say, you know what? In the words of Fannie Lou Hamer, enough is enough. We about to deliver this right here. Don't know what else is going to happen, but this right here, we're going to deliver for the American people. It has to happen.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that Nina is playing this through in her mind over and over and over again. Yes, I can. You can see she can hardly wait, to get the people connected and in one block united, which would have happened, which should have happened at least 2 years ago, right? At the same moment when they were elected, they should have connected and built a block, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and
Nina, it's Nina.
It's
She's
Nina.
great. She's wonderful.
I've already donated a couple of times to her campaign. So, yeah. So yeah, I by the way, yes, Bernie was. I was corrected that Bernie was in the Senate during Obama's years, and that is true. But he has not had the type of power that he has now, the type of backing. So. Well, let's just see. Let him work his magic.
Yeah. So let's have a look at our weekly satire roundup. And yeah, and there we see the cancel culture term. You can talk, you can think about it whatever you want. Well, but the graphic, the joke is quite fitting. Yeah.
Yep. And along the same line.
Yeah. controls.
And it's interesting that it took him like a couple of days to kind of wiped out, even faster than Trump wiped out Obama's legacy. I think is going to wipe out most of Trump's legacy, and now in retrospect it seems like most of it was in executive orders. And not a lot of substantial legislation has been passed, so that's encouraging. Well,
yeah, the only thing I'm very surprised is how fast they could disinfect the White House, and
yeah. Here's some Statue of Liberty. And those are the tears explained. Is it gone yet?
Yeah.
And this is 2016 versus 2021.
Yeah.
This is the note that everybody wonders what the note was that Trump left to Biden.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised. And here.
Yeah, and first of all, Trump never wears his suitcases on his own.
Of course.
And then, but he's right. Wait, you forgot to show us your amazing healthcare plan. he never. Well, I think if it was so great, he could make. Yeah, Trump.
No, it's supposed to be. He didn't want to distract people with his healthcare plan.
Yeah, and this is a discussion we already had today,
Twitter
and
and
we will
Facebook
continue to have.
batteries. Yes.
This is one take.
And this is the historian with turning the page on the ink blotched
Yeah.
mess that Trump's administration was. And
Yeah,
that's
the
all,
famous
folks.
outro.
Here's one about Biden versus Trump's approach. And now it's a matter of concern. Hundreds of fact checkers are laid off after new press secretary fails to lie in first briefing.
Yeah, and Ro, you are right. Like Biden's amazing healthcare plan. I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely right.
Yeah. Okay, and this is
I think this is a perfect thing, the hysteric media, who profited immensely from 5 years of Trump since he announced to run for president. They are thrilled. They want to get something out of it. They want to have news. They want to make money.
Yeah.
For bullshit.
And under management, new is irrelevant.
Yeah. Exorcist. Yeah, this is what I meant.
Disinfecting the White House, and to whoever doesn't get this one, the Obama administration went in and disinfected, cleaned Trump right off the desks, literally.
The Biden administration.
Yes, the Biden administration under the excuse
not the Obama, not the Obama.
Yeah, well, it's hard to remember.
Who was it?
It's hard to make the distinction at this point, but they found they had a good excuse for washing Trump right out of their hair.
Yeah, and there's something biblical, but also very fitting, No, that would be America. Yeah, at this moment, where we are standing, it's America. Yeah,
and replacing the me with us,
no,
this is the U.S.
We will see. We will see if it is us or United States or, us corporations.
And that's Jim Jordan.
Yeah.
How can you ignore terrorists? I pretend they're sex abusers.
Yeah. And the last one, yes. This might be boring.
Thank the Lord. And I think a lot of Americans feel that way.
He was that feeling, to wake up in the morning, not to hurry before you had your first cup of coffee to Twitter and see about the latest bullshit, your president spread.
And that is something
kind of recovering, right?
Right, but I felt that way when Trump was saying right before he was he had to leave. He was saying, well, he was saying it as a bad thing. This guy is going to be so boring. You're going to miss Trump, and
yes,
and I was thinking,
the media, the mainstream media will miss it. They made big money out of him.
Yeah. That's it.
Guys, that's already the end. As already said, we don't have an outro song because YouTube. We are fed up with this shit, and it doesn't make sense that every time Amos has to cut out the video we are running to get out, and it's boring, and it's another point to discuss. It's another thing about using stuff on social media. It is a never-ending discussion. What's going on social media? What's the future of it? And guys.
All right, so that brings us back to the end of the show, and I hope you tune in next week, and I probably will have a guest on Tuesday, but it's not confirmed yet. We'll certainly be here back next Saturday for another episode of No Joke. Feel free to share our program; that always helps, and we hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thank you very much for watching, and stay safe, and have a nice rest of the weekend, and see you next week.